Coming up today in Eagle Eyes on Tech, 16 billion passwords have been breached. We'll get into why that's nowhere near as scary as it actually is. Apple is getting sued over their AI ambitions. Mr. Beast is making money off other YouTubers using AI. Switch users getting banned for using this one unique tool. And Twitch is cracking down on the multi-streaming that they allow. All that and more coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or as 2 a.m. Going to bury these guys on tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. And let me tell you, part of me wishes I was not in the middle of living through a historical event right about now. Mostly because it made prepping for my non-political podcast extremely difficult. I'm just saying. We're not going to talk about the Middle East at all today. I assure you of that. Not even in the extra podcast. Not even in the subscription one. We have no reason to talk about that sort of stuff today. Maybe next week something will come out of it. But right now, no. It's also way too fresh. I'll tell you what's not too fresh, though. 23andMe is back in the news because they went into bankruptcy, right? For those who don't know, 23andMe they were a company that their sole purpose was to gather info via DNA samplings and then tell you your ethnicity. You know, it's one of those services. All right. They did a bit more than that, but that was basically the goal of it, right? Well, it turns out that wasn't a sustainable business model. They went under, they went into bankruptcy. The twist, however, is that as all the information now goes to auction to pay its debts, 23andMe now has a new owner. And it's the current owner of 23andMe. Yet the founder of 23andMe won the bankruptcy auction for all the information and data the company has harvested throughout its entire years. And it's now gone right back where it started, into the hands of the original founder. I don't even know where to start with this story. Now, I misspoke at first. This chat is yeah, you said the wrong thing. Yeah, you're right. I kind of did, because it did actually change hands a couple of times. Now it is back in the hands of its original owner. But here's the thing. What does it mean? I'm not gonna lie, I don't know, because again, it's not like 23andMe was profitable. The most amount of profit this company made was when it was sold. So it's not like, oh, it's back in the hands of its original owners. Now it can go ahead and experience a brand new life. No, it's not. But I mean, what you can do, all that data now is back in the hands of its owner. Nobody knows what that means quite yet, but will it make a comeback? Will the data just be sold for even more money piecemeal to other sources? Who knows at this point? It's hard to say. Meanwhile, though, there is a data breach that definitely sounds very, very concerning. And we did, in fact, even do a breaking news episode regarding this story. And that is 16 billion passwords leaked from Apple, Facebook, and Google. And this made a massive amount of rounds on Thursday. Oh, man. All of a sudden, all the clickbait, all the fear mongering. Oh, 16 billion passwords. That's 2 passwords per person in the entire world were just leaked out. All passwords are ruined forever. Everyone's exposed. Everyone's been doxxed. Everyone's breached. Oh my God. Do you know why no one should be taking this seriously? You shouldn't, by the way. You shouldn't be taking this leak seriously at all. First off, no one has even confirmed yet that the claim is correct. No one has confirmed that it actually is 16 billion passwords, which also means nobody has been able to identify if, in fact, any of these 6 quintillion passwords, you might as well just say at this point, are duplicates. The other bit of information, this one is my personal favorite because it's the funniest. It's just passwords. As far as people can tell right now, the initial claim was that it was login credentials and passwords. No one has been able to confirm that login credentials are part of the leak. Right now, no one is certain where the file is right now, who has it, if they're trying to sell it, or what its contents are. But there's a good chance all this is a massive rainbow table of passwords, which pose no threat to literally anyone. Now, with that being said, that this theoretically does not pose a threat to anyone, let's be real for a second. Let's pretend it actually does pose. Let's pretend there is some risk to this. All right. Do you know what you should do? Well, one, you could do the bare minimum and change your password. I know you haven't done that in 6 years. And two, and the far more important thing, any essential things you do that use two-factor authentication, you should set up to use two-factor authentication. I know this might come off as a no-brainer to some of you, but I'm telling you right now, this is simple stuff. Set up two-factor and you'll be happy. You'll be all set up and everything will be fan-freaking-tastic. That's the easy thing to do. Okay? If you want to be more paranoid, go ahead and like swap, password managers and all sorts of other crazy stuff. There's plenty of crazy stuff you could do to be more secure, TM. But the two-factor authentication by far, especially in today's day and age where there's database breaches all the freaking time that are just never talked about, enable two-factor. The end. You have now greatly increased your odds of not having your account hacked into. Easiest decision to make. You're welcome. Now, that being said, though, there are some security vulnerabilities out there that are getting very, very, very impressively devious. We talked either last week or the week before about a new piece of malware that injects itself into your phone to make a call that is from a malicious host appear more legitimate by manipulating your contacts. All right, that's already terrifyingly ingenious. How about this piece of malware? One that edits websites as you view them to show a scammer's number on the website for tech support rather than the official one. So imagine you go to the website here from Ars Tech, which says hp.com, and then when you go to look up their customer support phone number, the malware will replace the 1-800 HP help me or whatever the heck the actual support number is with 1-800 scam me or whatever the heck the actual scammer's phone number is. Yikes. I'm not gonna lie, I think that would actually get me, because that's usually one of my go-to methods to make sure I've got the right phone number. You get a spoof email, says there's something wrong with your bank or your whatever, and you need to call this number. First thing I do, don't call that number. Go to the source website, dial that number instead. Easiest thing to do. Now this tool exists. Now that little seed of doubt has now been planted. Now there is a growing concern that, in fact, the number you could be dialing is not what it appears to be at all. God, all I can do is just run your virus scanner, run your malware checks. That's the best advice I can give. Whew. That is extra concerning. How much more deviously clever can malware operators get? Well, I've got one that actually is even more devious. You see, this bad actor is using their own software to prevent the browser you want to use from opening up and instead using theirs. It sounds devious, right? You probably already guessed it. The bad actor is Microsoft. Microsoft is actually blocking Google Chrome through an update on its family safety features to prevent Google Chrome and only Google Chrome from opening. And this has been a problem that's existed for almost 2 weeks if you're on the latest update and have this family safety feature enabled. I am convinced now the only Microsoft fanboys that exist anymore either live in complete ignorance or are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Like, I'm a Windows user, all right. I basically use Windows out of necessity. But holy smokes, you hear more and more of these stories existing. It's just like, wow, am I a prisoner? You don't want to be. You just want to do your stuff. You don't want to use freaking Edge. You don't want to watch Google Chrome refuse to open because of some beef. You don't want to go ahead and turn on your computer and find out that your sound driver now no longer detects your speakers or your sound mix or anything and resets everything to default. You got to go ahead and do everything. Someone in chat says, but Edge is Chrome. That's what makes this even stupider. I want to stress it is only Google Chrome, not any other browser that is even Chrome based. It will not block Chromium. It will not block Opera GX. It'll of course not block Edge, which I'm not gonna lie would be really, really funny if it went ahead and blocked all Chrome based web browsers and then blocked Edge. No, it only blocks raw Google Chrome. Good job. A+, number 1. That's just Microsoft for you. Go ahead and find their new scheme to go ahead and get you to use Edge. And then when they're caught, they're like, oh, it's a bug. Oh, that's not supposed to do that. This one is not a bug, though. The Windows Hello face unlock apparently now no longer works in the dark. And the main reason being is that the latest update has now changed how Windows Hello works so that not only does it need the IR camera to see you, but it needs the RGB color camera as well to see you for verification purposes. So for those who don't know, Windows Hello is a face unlock feature, which I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of funny that Apple, who embraces face unlock on their phones, does not embrace it on any other device and only lets you use fingerprint readers on their desktops. Microsoft, on the other hand, only supports Windows Hello on laptops and desktops. They want to license that stuff out to anyone. And I don't think it works on their services either, their tablets. But basically, the Windows Hello camera works the exact same as the Face ID one. There's 3 cameras inside the setup array. One is a IR dot projector, the other is an IR camera, and then another is a standard color RGB camera. It uses these in tandem to go ahead and detect your face with extreme accuracy, and then no other software exists for this sort of device, which is a shame because, man, let me tell you, VTubers would love that. So it will no longer, if you're in a really dark room, just unlock for you. You do need some kind of light to keep yourself awake. No more trying to operate your computer in the dark and go, nope, you gotta stay awake. But the accuracy is now much better. Also, because it does use the dot projector and the IR camera, no, a picture of your face will not unlock it. Sorry. That's just kind of, you know, how that technology works. Speaking of technology and cameras, Adobe is making a super powered camera app for the phone or for the iPhone because Apple refuses to go ahead and update their camera app whatsoever. And, you know, I would be all in favor of anyone to make this, except for Adobe. Because Adobe has this nasty habit. Whenever they go ahead and make something that seems really useful, they will take it away from you, reintroduce it with AI features into it, and then charge you $80 a month to use it. It's the Adobe way now. Like, I don't want to just immediately distrust Adobe. Oh, Adobe's doing a thing. It's hip to distrust them. I guess they're evil now. It's true. Every time we look around the corner, what's Adobe doing? They're up to no good. Oh, we caught you again being up to no good. It's like clockwork with them. So they make a photo app for Apple. You wonder why I don't trust it? It is this exact reason. And it's aggravating. They just have a history of saying, you know, we shouldn't trust you. And the fact they now go ahead and use everything for AI makes everything that much worse. By the by, Cloudflare, who was responsible for the internet going out of commission a couple weeks ago, is now saying what everyone else has been saying forever. It's the fact that publishers are now facing existential threat thanks to, say it with me, AI. Here we go. See, I'm so tired of talking about AI. I'm just getting sleepy. So, of course, the Cloudflare CEO, Mr. Matthew Prince, is telling everyone, including Axios, that, well, because AI is going ahead and just skimming all the data in the world and just rebuilding stuff using that, publishers are very soon just going to no longer exist. As more and more people just use AI and use that for everything, publishers have no reason to exist. You can just generate on the fly thanks to AI. It's great and fantastic and is going to end up leading to the heat death of creativity as a whole. Does anyone else wish this wasn't the case right now? I mean, heck, who isn't using AI nowadays? It feels like everywhere you turn. That's AI. That's also AI there. Magic the Gathering is making a new card set. Never mind, they're using AI. Everywhere you turn, left, right, up, down, side to side, it's all AI. And the worst part is the quality that AI is pushing out is terrible. Someone in chat says AI is in the future. It's the here and now. It is being forced. That's the big takeaway. I've been very consistent in my feeling on this. All right. And some people are gonna just like the chatter, old man yells at cloud, hurdy-dirty-dur. Name one AI piece that actually is original, is high quality. See, this is the problem with AI. Because AI has to be trained on everyone else's creativity, it ends up just regurgitating and remixing everyone else's work. Nothing original is then being made, but it's easy. It's cheap. That is literally the only appeal to AI. It's the fact that there is barely any labor cost to generative AI. That is the warning being given. It's the fact that it's going to lead to a creativity stagnation. Which then, of course, brings us to the next story, which I'm not going to lie, is really, really funny to me. It is the fact that well-known YouTuber Mr. Beast is trying to sell an AI tool for $80 a month that makes AI thumbnails and is receiving major backlash because every other YouTuber that his tool went ahead and trained itself on is going, excuse me, what are you doing? Because he has a whole video with this. He shows, hey, this is what my tool can do. It all trains off all these creators. And you can see in the background, there's creators out there like Nick Giovanni. There's MKBHD, there's Jacksepticeye, Mr. Who's the Boss, a bunch of other logos I don't recognize off the top of my head. None of them are thrilled. Not a single one. Because as it turns out, nobody likes the idea of all their work and all their creativity and all the work of their artists who spend days upon days making thumbnails that grab people's attentions, just training to a frickin' machine. And in the end, the only person who profits off of this is Mr. Beast himself at $80 a month per user. You want to talk about future isn't the, or that AI isn't the future, it's the now. If AI is the now sucks. Because this is doing nothing for anyone other than just making them absolutely hate technology. This isn't helping anyone. And then while that's going on, we've got Apple over here being sued by their shareholders because, of course, well, Apple goes ahead and says, hey, Apple Intelligence is going to be one of the best things ever. I'm just saying, hey, we're going to have all kinds of AI capabilities in our iPhones and in Siri, and oh my God, where is it? Yeah, iPhone users, how's your Apple Intelligence looking? How's that new AI boosted Siri looking? Yeah, it turns out shareholders are not too thrilled when Apple, who has a good track record with these sort of promises, fails to even come close to fulfilling them. So yeah, unsurprisingly, we've heard this was in the works for a while, but now it actually is happening. Apple is being sued by their own shareholders. Meanwhile, though, over in Google land, you now have AI-powered voice search, because that's a thing that someone asked for. Real quick, who asked for this? Who really wanted to get generated AI search through their voice? Someone in chat said Apple lied. It must be a day ending in Y. Honestly, though, like, real talk, all right? Because I've been covering Apple for a long time. Apple does have a history of over-promising the capabilities of features. Like, oh, Searchlight or Spotlight is going to be the best search engine you've ever seen. It's going to be built right in your computer. Yeah, it did what they said, but it wasn't like earth-changing. Or, oh, it's the best looking computer ever. Yeah, it looks good. I mean, it's not the best looking computer, but I mean, it's, you know, it's not bad. Like, Apple does have a pretty good track record of when they say they're going to do something, they do it. Apple Intelligence, and most importantly, Apple Intelligence powered Siri, is the first time in, God, 15, 20 years where Apple specifically promised something and delivered none of it. Not even a little bit. It's the first time in a long time that that's happened. But getting back to this, yeah, Google is going to be using their own Gemini model to go ahead and provide not actual Google searches. No. AI searches. You ever go on Google and the first thing they have is like some AI generated response that 50% of the time is just ripped directly from Wikipedia? Yeah, it's going to do more of that because that improves the user experience and harms the actual websites that they skim the data from more. Yay. So great. I love it. It's just fan freaking tastic. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go catch our first break here. When we come back, I want to talk more about some AI tools, and then we're gonna move on after that towards the potential return of high-end CPUs. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. Steam has now updated their performance and monitoring tools. And you know what I love about their new update to their monitoring tools? It's the fact that it can now detect the difference between real and fake frames. How long do you think it's going to be until Nvidia sues Steam for calling them out? You know, I'm joking in that regards. I don't think Nvidia would sue Valve for something like this, because God, that would go nowhere. But at the same time, man, Nvidia lately has been so incredibly delusional on their own sauce. Like, it is just comical. And I mean, I can't disagree with chat. Gaben is based. This might be one of the most based things that Steam has done in a long time. Then again, it's not. I take that back. There's actually been quite a lot that Steam's done lately that's been pretty on point. I mean, heck, look at recently. It turns out constantly throwing money into the burning pit that used to be Linux gaming. It turned out that was freaking brilliant. So yeah, just in case that you are also way too drunk on the Nvidia Kool-Aid and believe that you too can gain 7,000 FPS for on your RTX 5050 or whatever the cheapest GPU they have is nowadays, Steam is going to go ahead and be able to tell you, no, you need a reality check. To which I'd say, bravo. Bravo. Very, very necessary in today's day and age. The fact that it's necessary really does just say a lot. Meanwhile, though, TikTok is embracing the wrong side of AI, which should surprise literally no one, as they are going ahead and testing out generative AI tools for one purpose and one purpose only: to partner with global products and sell you useless garbage. I mean products. It is to generate garbage ads for garbage products. I mean useful ads for useful TM products. Actually, I might have been right the first time. Welcome to the future! Influencers, you're not needed. We're just gonna go ahead and use AI to replace you. Creative advertisers, nah, we don't need you. AI will do it. Who needs creative minds trying to go ahead and sell products and embrace the never-ending loop that seemed like a cyberpunk hellscape? Well, we can go ahead and have a GPU generate a cyberpunk hellscape for you. All right, look. All right. I'm willing to accept that our future is bleak and that we're moving into a cyberpunk dystopia where advertisements are so strongly shoved down our throats and generated on the spot and are so soulless it's not even funny, and it's just going to make everyone's quality of life plummet. But look, if we're going to take all these downsides, can I at least have the upsides of a leather duster with cool neon ring lights on the inside of it with mirrored sunglasses? Look, it's one of the only pros to a cyberpunk dystopia. If I'm going to go ahead and suffer the problems of a cyberpunk dystopia, I want the one pro, okay? I want the one pro, dang it. Someone in the chat says, I'm sorry, that's only for the 1%. Okay. I am willing to settle for a brown burlap jacket with one set of blue LED rings on the inside of the collar. That's my final offer. Until then, AI sucks. Also, does this now mean that I'm now officially in the bargaining phase of all this? The bargaining phase of grief. Wait, what were the 5 phases of grief? How long do we have to reverse course until we're finally in acceptance? Nah, I think AI still sucks. Meanwhile, though, of course, very, very quick, TikTok did also approach a deadline. And that deadline is the fact that they need to be sold to a US company or face a US ban. At least the US division of TikTok had to be sold. If you are keeping tabs on current events, it should come as no surprise that the deadline was extended again, as there are currently far more significant current events than harassing TikTok to go ahead and sell already. I know. I'm surprised too. That was sarcasm, by the way. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about the current events. I'm trying to get away from that. But yeah, to literally no one's surprise, the current historical event that you're living in today is kicking the can down the road for banning TikTok or not. Not really a surprise. By the way, if you're wondering when the deadline is now, the new deadline is it is 90 days. So mid-September. That'd be about what? I think September 12th is what that would put that on, assuming my math is correct. 90 days from June 19th. So you can expect the next extension on September 12th. Just expect the reason to be because I don't know, they went out for ice cream. Invent your own reason. Get creative. You know what is creative though? Intel deciding, maybe the enthusiast market is worth looking at again. According to rumors, there may in fact be a close to 52 core desktop CPU that does not have the word Xeon branded on top of it. So for quite some time now, Intel has pretty much bailed on the enthusiast market. They only make baseline desktop CPUs, workstation CPUs, and server CPUs. Workstation CPUs are like the Xeon E series, and then the server CPUs are the Xeon we threw a random metal at the end of it series. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. And Intel's just kind of looked at the enthusiast market, which currently is owned solely by AMD Threadripper, and is just going, maybe we should try and go for that pie a little bit. That being said, however, I do think the rumors stating that the whole point of this is going to be to compete with Threadripper might be a bit smoking all of it. Because one thing I have to keep in mind with current Intel is that they use a big little architecture. That means you have a certain number of performance cores and a certain number of efficiency cores. This whole big high-end 52 core processor is only going to have 16 performance cores and 32 efficiency cores, and also four low power cores. So actually, I'm wrong. We're not on a big little architecture. We're on a big little littler, big little tiny, big little pathetic. We're going with big little pathetic architecture. I like that one the most. So realistically, you know what this 52 core processor is actually doing? It's not competing with Threadripper. It's competing with AMD's. Actually, what are they on? Is AMD on the 50, not the 50? No, not the 5950. It would be, it's either the 7950 or the 9950. I'm not sure which number series they're on right now. I think it's 7950. Never mind. Chad is saying 9950X is the current high-end non-Threadripper CPU. That's what I think this is actually going to try and compete with. It's going to try and compete with that. It's not going to, because what's Threadripper up to nowadays? 10 billion cores? 28 trillion cores? Look, are there more cores in a Threadripper CPU or more drops of salt in the ocean? That is the real comparison we need to compare it to. Chat is saying 96 cores. That actually does sound correct. And I'm pretty sure 96 did replace the 64 cores that Threadripper used to have. I don't think we've gotten an increase on that quite yet. The chat saying, okay, let me rephrase that. 96 cores replace 64 as the top end. Yes, smaller queues still exist. There used to be, and probably still is, a 16 core Threadripper. I don't know why you'd go ahead and get a 16 core Threadripper, but that was an option. Actually, I think that might actually be gone. I think I actually might be lying. I think there hasn't been a 16 core Threadripper since Threadripper 1. Because all of a sudden my memory is now remembering that the SKUs used to be 24, 32, and 64. Crud, now I'm making myself look like the fool. This is what I get for looking at reasonable computers I can afford, as opposed to insane computers I can't afford. Someone in chat says that 12 and 16 core Threadrippers exist. Okay, I can understand the 16 core Threadrippers because more PCI Express lanes, memory channels, and just being awesome. Can you imagine paying the Threadripper price for a 12 core and then be outdone by the 16 core one? That one actually sounded... Is there really a 12 core Threadripper? Like, I'd believe a 12 core Epic. 12 core Threadripper seems insane. All right, I forgot that AMD doesn't really have a very nicely searchable database like Intel Arc has. No, there actually is a 12 core Threadripper Pro. Sure enough, 350 watt TDP up to 5.4 gigahertz. Interesting. The other thing I'm also noticing is that it's the workstation series that has it. What about just the regular? Okay, yeah, the actual enthusiast line only goes up to the 64 cores. The WX series, the workstation series, will go up higher. I know, only 64 cores. Next, you're gonna tell me to get to go ahead and drive a small car that's energy efficient. Sheesh. Meanwhile, moving on to our... Oh my god, my next story actually was talking about Threadripper Pro. Whoops! The launch next month for the Threadripper 9000 series is saying that it will be 145% faster than Intel Xeons. Okay. All right, now that I accidentally didn't read my next story and then went off on Threadripper for a bit, and we almost accidentally covered this story anyway, let me just talk about the headline real quick. This headline means almost nothing, because let me tell you something. The current generation of Xeon is ancient. Like, Threadripper and Epic have been updated regularly. Intel is so desperately trying to claw its way back into the mainstream market, they have been neglecting their Xeon line for so long that it's almost comical. The only reason Intel Xeon is still a viable solution and is still well, I shouldn't say a viable solution, but is still just like actually used is because system admins and people who go ahead and buy new computers are stubborn. Is basically what it boils down to. Yeah, there's other reasons. Someone in chat mentions legacy and certifications and whatnot, but they're just going ahead and just being like, all right, we need to upgrade our stuff. I heard good things about the AMD Epic processors, but my Xeon systems haven't pissed me off recently, so we'll go ahead and go with them again. So it's less of a headache, Smile. I guarantee you that's the reason. It's just solely because, oh hey, yeah, those haven't pissed me off. Just go with them. Because performance per watt, AMD Epic wins. Performance, AMD wins. Cost, AMD wins. Performance per dollar, AMD wins. Just about every single freaking metric out there, AMD freaking wins. But far too often in a database, when you have thousands of servers in your data center, there is one thing, and I say this again and again and again in the business world, there is one thing that matters the most in business and enterprise: uptime. And just the fear, the concern that, ooh, that's a slight change. Is that going to affect our uptime? Someone else in chat. That stuff needs to stay homogenized because of VM migrations. We go ahead and change everything over to something new. Is that going to affect uptime? And unfortunately, with a switch like that, the answer usually is yes. It'll affect uptime. I would love to sit down with like a number of like people who make those sort of decisions, just to see if the answer really is just like, yeah, we just don't want to risk an extended downtime when upgrading servers. That's it. Just don't want to risk it. Risk versus reward. Speaking of risks, Microsoft is taking a pretty interesting risk because they went ahead and told us what to expect for their next Xbox. Do you know what the next generation Xbox is going to be? The next generation Xbox is whatever anyone else feels like making. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. They're not going to bother with first-party hardware from what they're announcing. They went on recently and basically said the entire point of that Asus Windows-powered handheld is to kind of go ahead and say, you know what? We're just going to let other manufacturers make the next generation Xbox and just say, hey, just have it fit in like about here, about these parameters. Just kind of do something like this, I guess. So that's, I'll give Microsoft credit for this one. It's very interesting. What they're doing with this is going to be very interesting. I don't think it's going to be great. I don't think it's going to be good, but it's going to be very entertaining. You have to remember one important thing when it comes to consoles. Okay. Do you know why this Nintendo Switch 1 that I'm holding in my hands is able to perform as well as it does? Because the chip in here is not great. In fact, one could argue that it was obsolete when it first launched. But you know why this thing gets more than 3 frames per second, which is all it really deserves based on the age of the CPU that's in it? The sole reason is very, very simple. It's because they went ahead and told all the devs except for Game Freak exactly what the hardware is going to be, so everything is optimized around this one configuration. And everyone except Game Freak got that memo. It's why the PS4, an ancient console, still looks as good as it did at the time. It's also why the PS5 is able to perform as well as it is, despite the fact that it is pretty lackluster hardware. What do you think is going to happen? And we already saw this on the Xbox. What do you think is going to happen when you tell your developers, hey, by the way, the next generation Xbox is going to be somewhere between here and here, this whole range? You're going to end up with the same performance loss that you end up with on a PC. Because I hate to break it to you, when you go ahead and spec a gaming PC with the exact same specs as a PS5, the PS5 is going to get more frames, hopefully, unless someone really screwed up, which is possible. There's an efficiency loss when a developer has to go ahead and hit a wide range of specs. They can't pinpoint it down. What do you think's going to happen to an Xbox that's just like that? You're going to end up with PC gaming, but worse, because it's a locked down console-based operating system. Not unlike Windows. Not unlike what Windows really, really wants to be. Let's be honest. Honestly, like the most current generation of consoles has just been such a trip. The Switch is incredibly underpowered because it runs on, I swear, that chip is just like a leaf soldered onto a PCB. Like there is like no power draw there whatsoever. That sucker, that chip is, it's not great. The fact that it still does what it does is a miracle. Then the PS5 had such a terrible launch, no one could go ahead and get it for the longest time, so people kept making games for the PS4 and the PS5 at the same time. That limited the capability of it. And then people now look at the PS5 and go, that's $500 still, Yeah, I'm not going to do that. And the Xbox, name an Xbox Series game that made you go, oh yeah, I gotta get that. There just hasn't been a compelling reason for anything from this generation. I mean, heck, my PS5, literally, I only got my PS5 for FF16. And then eventually FF7 Rebirth. That was it. And then those games actually caved and then put and port it onto the PC anyway. So good luck, Microsoft. Good luck convincing Asus to go ahead and make something good. Meanwhile, though, Nintendo already has an early start on the next generation of consoles. The Switch 2, performance-wise, looks much better than the Switch 1. That's not hard. However, here's Chad's ripping on Nintendo. No, this performance is equal to last gen. Shush you, it's a portable console, all right? Look, if we're gonna count the Switch as part of the race for the last gen, I hate to break it to you, we gotta count the Switch 2 as part of the next gen. I gotta give consistency in the rules. I'm not gonna go ahead and judge console. We judge generations based on time, not performance. If we judge generations based on performance, man, family trees would be not growing tall. But the Switch 2 does have a different controversy. Besides the fact that it has a grand total of 2 games total. But the new controversy right now with the Switch 2 is the fact that people are getting banned left and right, and their Switch 2 consoles being bricked for using this one little tool. The tool I'm talking about, of course, is the MIG Flash Cart. The MIG Flash Cart is a third-party device that you put a micro SD card into it, loaded with your Switch ROMs, and it'll load them into the console. This concept is not new, by the way. In fact, these kind of devices are very common in the retro scene, to go ahead and have some way to have a whole bunch of old ROMs all in one convenient place. However, if you know one thing about Nintendo, the one thing they love way more than going ahead and making consoles that just don't perform nearly as well as their competitors, it's getting unreasonably upset and salty about anything that could even be remotely considered piracy. And well, technically, it wouldn't be that hard to go ahead and get some ROMs in a questionable way, load them on an SD card, and all of a sudden, piracy. So anyone who has been using these tools has been finding their Switch 2 remotely banned from the online Switch 2 network, which is especially bad because one of the features, TM, of the new Switch 2 console is the fact that a lot of your cartridges don't actually have the game on it. You actually need to go ahead and insert the cartridge, have the cartridge authenticate a key that says you bought the dang thing, and then it downloads the game from the online network that you were just banned from. This essentially bricks the console you just bought. Now, here's going to be the fun part. Is this legal? Which then raises the next question. Who's going to decide that it's legal or not? Now, I mentioned this on my live stream at twitch.tv/EagleFalcon when this was first brought to my attention. I don't believe, even according to US laws, that it's almost irrelevant what the EULA says, that even the US, which is not particularly strong in consumer protection laws, that this won't fly. And I am very, very curious how a class action lawsuit for this sort of stuff would go down. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not a legal expert. I don't even pretend to be one. But I'm going to be watching this very, very, very intently to see if any sort of class action does come down and how it's going to go down. And I'm actually very curious from actual lawyers that actually look into this, what they'd have to say on this. The other thing I don't know is what region the people who have been banned from, because it's quite possible this is only happening in regions that Nintendo knows they can get away with it. Because the thing is, like someone in chat saying, it's going to depend on how well phrased it is and the legal standing behind it. The thing is that like these sort of legal standings, when you talk about remotely locking someone out of their own device, because they use their device in a way you're not saying. There is already legal precedent in the US that doesn't stand in court. This is a case involving John Deere, a tractor company. So there already is some legal standing that this won't go down. Someone in chat says the device still works, it just can't access Nintendo servers. Except Nintendo has now set up an environment that you need Nintendo's servers for it to function. Because they went ahead and said that everything needs to go ahead and go through their servers to function, especially these stupid key carts, the device now is no longer operable. So the argument of it still works, it just can't access Nintendo server, dies on its face. It'd be like saying, oh, well, your car turns on, the engine turns over and fires, it just can't shift to drive. Then it's not operable now, is it? Like I said, this is going to be very, very interesting to see how this all goes down. Because, I mean, on one hand, I lose a lot of sympathy for the people who have been banned by using a tool that was meant for the Switch 1 on their Switch 2 and then get a surprise Pikachu face when it backfires. But the more and more I think about this, the more and more this gets legally questionable. It makes you wonder how it would go down. Speaking of things that are questionable, Twitch. Such a terrible segue. So let me set this story up a little bit, all right? Not all that long ago, streamers on Twitch, if you were an affiliate or a Twitch partner, you had an exclusivity contract. You could only stream on Twitch. Then, a bit ago, Twitch then changed it so that you could simulcast. That means stream on multiple platforms at the same time, as long as you follow some very, very silly guidelines. And these guidelines were just kind of really. Like, one of them is that on your Twitch stream, you cannot have a combined chat. You also cannot use a third-party tool to combine other chats with your own. The Twitch stream must be of the best quality or the same quality as your other streams. And this one is my personal favorite as far as extra stupid, and I'll admit I don't follow this one at all. You cannot draw attention to the other streams. So if you simulcast on, say, YouTube, the artist formerly known as Twitter, Facebook for some stupid reason, and Kick, and someone says hi to you on YouTube, you are technically not supposed to say hi back. You are not supposed to have any alerts if any of them subscribe, super chat, or whatever to show any sort of financial support. You're not supposed to have ads or have any sort of alerts for that. Which, by the way, is one of the things that defeats the whole purpose of a live stream. Now, it did not take long after these absolutely insecure, laughable guidelines were put into place on Twitch that streamers just never followed them. Like, you might get an occasional warning here or there, because that was one of the big things, right? These guidelines also said that the streamer would get a warning first and then action. Okay? Now, my stream simulcasts on both Twitch and YouTube. I tried to also simulcast on TikTok and the artist formerly known as Twitter. They didn't work. TikTok doesn't like me, and the artist formerly known as Twitter wants me to pay to stream on there. And, well, I can't afford to put batteries in this remote control, so what chance does Twitter have? Now, to make sure that I go ahead and can pay attention to both chats, because I don't want to ignore any viewer, I have a multi-chat window. Okay? On my feed here, I have a chat window that has everyone's name and an icon next to them that shows where they're chatting from. And this tool is very versatile. It works with Twitch, YouTube, Kick, the artist formerly known as Twitter, TikTok. It works with all of them. Someone in chat says maybe you should try streaming on Blue Sky. Blue Sky does not support streaming. So no. So I have a multi-chat tool. Okay. Now the rules say that it cannot be visible on stream, meaning that it cannot be on an overlay. If I go ahead and do that I have multiple chats on an overlay, Twitch has to be kept separately because Twitch is very insecure about themselves. A streamer who makes these sort of Twitch tools, who goes by the name of Nutty, went ahead and showed this tool that he's been working on stream. No warning, instant 24-hour ban. Not for integrating an overlay onto his stream, but for showing a tool that he uses in OBS to monitor all of his chats. For just going ahead and doing this, woo! 24-hour ban. Other streamers have reported, allegedly, I should say, have allegedly said that they have gotten banned from, or I should say suspended, specifically for having links to their Kick on their Twitch page. Not for any of the other ones, just for Kick. I can't verify this at all. It doesn't surprise me at all. Kick right now is crushing it compared to Twitch when it comes to viewership. And I just gotta ask, Twitch, how insecure are you? Seriously, we're going ahead and we're putting in these absolutely insane rules when it comes to simulcasting. And I also want to state for the record, I am not a stranger to simulcasting. Before I became a Twitch affiliate, I had a massive simulcasting setup. We were on Twitch, we were on YouTube, we were on Beam.io, who eventually became what did Beam end up becoming? Or not, it was Beam.tv at first. It was Beam.tv, then Microsoft bought Beam, then their name changed, and then they died. And now I'm blanking on what the name was. In any case, we were on Hitbox, we were on someone in chat said that's probably why they died. It was a big thing back then though, because Beam had their name changed, then Microsoft bought them, then their name changed, then Microsoft spent like a boatload of money for exclusivity contracts for major streamers to stream only on the new platform. Then the platform went under, and then those streamers with exclusive platforms were just like, oh, what? Mixer! That's what it was! Oh, Mixer. Oh, the Mixer streaming service. I don't know how they beat the porn allegations more than X did. Because in hindsight, that one seems really obvious. Someone in chat says Mixer means blender in German. It kind of does here in the US too, but Mixer also refers to a kind of party where you swap partners. Anyway, we were on Mob Crush, we were on streamer.io, we were on like a whole bunch of platforms, and eventually we just settled on Twitch because it was the one where we got the most viewership. So I mean, I'm not a stranger to that. There's all kinds of ways to go ahead and make a simulcasting stream that much more enjoyable and that much better. But Twitch just wants to go ahead and say no. We want you to go ahead and just say, hey, you can be on these other ones, but have them basically be as worthless as staring at a TV that can't interact with you, thus defeating the whole purpose of live streaming. What are you doing? Not to mention that Twitch is also this one a lot of people can't get over, and I'm starting to get on the same boat. The fact that the new stream rewind feature is going to be paywalled, where every other competitor that has a rewind feature just makes it available to everyone. Twitch, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Banning people for showing a tool because it technically violates that. Then you violate your own wording. Go ahead and ban a guy. Trying to find every little ticky-tack thing to not ban people, but you know, God forbid if they're one of your favorites. one of your favorite streamers, they can get away with literally breaking crimes and not see any kind of suspension at all. Someone in chat says, YouTube, can you just get your chat in order? That's YouTube's biggest problem right there. Their live chat system. If they actually like just worked on, no, there's two things that YouTube needs to do. They need to fix their live chat experience, which is abysmal, and then actually make a rating system that's not awful. And just like that, bam, Twitch is cooked overnight. That being said, though, there is one feature that Twitch has launched that is useful. According to Zach Busey, which I'm just learned I've been mispronouncing this whole time, but I really don't want to pronounce the actual correct pronunciation. Twitch will now go ahead and display any bits that have been revoked from your earnings on the revenue dashboard instead of letting you guess how much of your earned bits were or how many you could have had if they weren't revoked. So for example, let's say I had 1,500 bits, but then someone went ahead and for whatever reason revoked 500 of them. All it would say before is that I had 1,000 bits. It wouldn't say I had 1,500 and then lost 500. Now it will show that. So, thanks, I guess, for, you know, a smidge of help. Thanks for that, Twitch. In other news, there has been a passing of the torch. Also, I went over time thinking I didn't have 30 minutes of content. We're now approaching an hour for this segment. Whoops. Oh, well, we're committed now. Nexus Mods is now officially changing hands. After 24 years of Nexus Mods being in the same hands, it is now moving on to its new owner. It appears I chose poorly when picking which article to go ahead and use for my notes on this story, because Kotaku, which should have been my first indication that I picked the wrong story, does not mention who bought Nexus Mods. You would think by now I would learn my lesson. Apparently the new owner is just going under the name of Chosen. Now, Chosen, which sounds like the name you would give to a cult leader, does say that they will strive to keep Nexus Mods always free and continue having the platform being as diverse and inclusive as the previous owner always did, and said that there won't be any kind of aggressive monetization or anything like that under his management of Nexus Mods. No wonder I couldn't find the name of the owner. If you told me the guy's name was Chosen, I'd be like, so he was chosen to be the owner? That's weird. Why'd you do that? That's silly. That's silly in the head. Not that he was actually... The world is sometimes a little crazy. And finally, I bring you the last burb, the last story of the day, the weirdest story of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you synthetic quail straight from Australia. The company known as Vow, based in Sydney, has now made the first lab-grown meat down under. Now, its uses are rather interesting because, of course, lab-grown meat, you would just assume, yeah, it's for eating. Oh, no. That is not the core function of this lab-grown meat. You can eat it. It is edible. But it is actually used to make candles. Yes, candles. That you can then eat the melted wax. TM. You know, I'm not gonna lie. Half the time when I find these last burb stories, these really weird, out of nowhere tech stories that just, they don't feel real. They feel like I make them up. Someone in chat says it's most likely simply just not classified as food yet. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I have not looked into yet whether it actually is considered meat or not, or considered an edible food substance yet. Mostly because I don't know where I'd look for that sort of information down in Australia. But just the thought of a quail candle that you then dip stuff into to then eat just really just made my brain reset pretty much on the spot. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Eagle Eyes on Tech. Thank you so much for listening. I do encourage you to check my other works, youtube.com/EagleFalcon and twitch.tv/EagleFalcon. We, of course, also do have the subscriber-only version of the podcast, which includes extra stories, and I encourage you to also check that out and help us out. Take care, and I hope to see you then. Bye-bye. You know, I now gotta ask some other odd questions. Are there other candles you can do this with? Like, I just assumed the whole point of beeswax candles was just like the texture and the look. But part of me now wonders, can I dip a biscuit in melted beeswax and will it taste like honey? This is what you've done to me, weird quail candle company. You've made me question everything I thought I knew in reality. I might need to see a psychiatrist now. Thanks a lot, quail candle people.